The SEC approves Grayscale's ETF, which includes XRP, Solana, Cardano, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. This bodes well for the individual ETF approvals for XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I'll give you the details there. And Deutsche Bank is ready to launch crypto custody services. And we got major stablecoin news with big players expanding globally. I'll give you all the details. Let's get into it. Hey folks, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, some quick updates on the macro. The big beautiful bill, which is Donald Trump's and Congress's spending bill, has passed in the Senate. You may say, why are you sharing this with us? Well, a couple of things. One, we know this thing is going to be about $5 trillion. So you know what that means. The debt is going to continue to increase and they're going to have to print money to service the debt. So that, of course, will drive global liquidity higher and asset prices higher. That's your first takeaway. Second is what we talked about yesterday, that Senator Lummis was trying to put some crypto provisions into this bill. Unfortunately, it didn't make it, but at least they tried, right? But we do have the major crypto legislation bills in place, such as the Genius Act, which is now in the House. And once that passes in the House, it goes to Trump for signatures. And then you have the Clarity Act, which is being worked on in the Senate and will follow the same path as the stablecoin bill. And now White House crypto czar David Sachs did say just last week that the market structure bill is going to take longer, which makes sense. It has many moving parts and components, much more complex than stablecoins, and that is expected to pass in September. But he's expecting July, this month, that the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, will pass. So those are your two major takeaways from the big, beautiful bill. Now, as mentioned, it will impact Bitcoin and risk assets as global liquidity continues to rise. Bitcoin right now cooling down a bit. It is trading just below $106,000. As I've been saying, though, we got to be patient. One analyst, Kaleo, who has a huge following on X, showed a great chart setup with Bitcoin pulling back, sitting just below 106,000, then finding some sort of support there and then bouncing. And of course, it has to break through the old all-time high of $112,000, at which point it will then enter into price discovery. And I believe that happens this month. It's not a guarantee. I'm just looking at the charts. I'm looking at the macro. I'm looking at the on-chain data. And it's all pointing to this thing continuing. As we've been highlighting, the stock market and much more has been hitting new highs. The DXY, the dollar currency index, hitting new lows. It is below 97. So if you look at the DXY chart, it's pretty bloody here. So these are all factors that are conducive to a bull market and for prices to keep rising higher. In addition, we continue to see massive inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. So BlackRock just yesterday bought 1,035 Bitcoin. For the month of June, they bought 37,000 Bitcoin. And you look at this chart here that was shared by Thomas Feher, it just shows the incline, the continual rise of the number of Bitcoin that BlackRock is holding. So they're not going to be telling their clients to put their money in these ETFs if they didn't see that higher prices were coming, right? And you see that even though there's outflows at certain points throughout the year, which is healthy and normal, the overall trend is the continued accumulation. So this is very interesting and looking very bullish here. Now, look at this news, folks. Deutsche Bank plans to launch crypto custody service in 2026. All of the banks, stock exchanges, and massive financial institutions are going all in on crypto, whether they're launching trading, custody, they're tokenizing and doing much more. They're going all in. And of course, they have to. As we've talked about over the years, this new asset class is the future. This technology, the blockchain rails are going to power the markets, the economies, and governments. Book it. That is what is coming. And you're seeing the infrastructure being set up here. So Bloomberg reported that Deutsche Bank AG plans to launch its digital assets custody service next year and has enlisted crypto exchange Bitpanda's technology unit to help build the offering. According to people familiar with the matter, Deutsche Bank's corporate bank, which first revealed its custody plans in 2022, will also continue to work with Swiss technology provider Taurus SA, on the service, said the people who asked not to be named discussing private plans. Deutsche Bank and the Bitpanda unit, Bitpanda Technology Solutions, declined to comment. So we've seen these reports many times, right? It comes ahead of the huge announcement, and they say someone who's familiar with the matter, but usually these companies are leaking the information, right? Trying to set the stage, set up for a buy the rumor, sell the news event. This is your typical PR strategy, but nevertheless, the adoption continues, folks. The biggest institutions in the world. And, it's funny. There's still people out there who think this is all a scam. They think it's a Ponzi. They're just reading sensationalized headlines. They are taking false information from people they follow versus doing their own research, right? But this is why we are doing our own research. We're educating ourselves because we're here to make money. We're here to make a nice return, folks. We're not just here to follow the news. We're here to take a bet because this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And sometimes you got to skip the Netflix show and TV and hanging out and take the time to study and educate yourself, because this is not going to the casino and playing the slot machine. This is not playing the lottery. You have to put some work in here, understand the market cycles, understand the tokens that you are investing in. Now, some more bullish news. The SEC approves Grayscale's ETF that includes Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. The product will become the largest multi-token digital asset ETF in the world. Folks, this is incredible. This seems like a prelude to the individual spot ETFs being approved for Solana, XRP, even Cardano. But I believe Solana and XRP are the leaders here because you already have futures markets for these assets. So the SEC is making progress. Yesterday, I shared with you that the folks at Rex Osprey got their Solana staking ETF approved because they did it a very different way with a C Corp setup. So we are seeing some bullish activity from the SEC. So the fund, which holds Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano, currently manages $755 million in assets. Bitwise's application to convert its crypto index fund BitW into an ETF is now awaiting an SEC decision. So folks, I actually just today interviewed Matt Hogan of Bitwise. That interview will be published tomorrow. We talked about the timeline for the XRP and Solana ETF approvals. We talked about staking. We talked about if these index ETFs, like I've been saying, will outperform the individual ETFs. And I believe so, because if you look at the stock market, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow dominate as far as the amount of assets being held versus individual stocks. So most investors, right, who are passive, the mainstream investors are going to go with the index ETF because it's much easier. They don't have to make any specific decisions as to which coin they want to invest in. It just give me exposure, right? So very bullish news, guys. I believe we could see the XRP Solana spot ETFs approved very soon. When I say very soon, I'm talking maybe within the next 2 to 3 to 4 months, in that timeline, 4 months the max. But we will have to wait and see. We know the deadline's in October, but it will be amazing if it happens this month, which coincides with the charts showing Bitcoin rallying. Altcoins will follow. You got the ETF approval. You got a lot of inflows, buy the rumor, sell the news event. And, that's what we're going to watch closely, because remember, this happened for Bitcoin in March, April of 2024. So I will be updating you guys with the on-chain data, the macro, the charts, and much more, because once again, we want to walk away from this bull market with money in our pockets. Now, Nate Geraci, president of the ETF store, weighed in on this news, saying the SEC approved Grayscale's digital large cap ETF today. XRP, Solana, and ADA will now be available in the 33 Act ETF wrapper. So talking about 1933, the law that's set up that way. He says the SEC also provided additional clarity on disclosures and registrations of crypto ETFs. See where this is all heading. Individual spot, Solana, ADA, etc. ETFs up next. He's spot on, and I hope you see the direction things are heading in, and you are bullish like I am, not because of our feelings or emotions, but the data, the facts, what is actually happening in the market, and much more. Now, folks, a great place that you can buy XRP, Solana, Cardano, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all your top coins is on Uphold. This is a platform I've been using since 2018. They have over 300 cryptocurrencies. They offer staking for over 20 cryptocurrencies. And folks, I've never had any issues with Uphold. I've been using them for many years. I've interviewed the CEO, the CFO, and many folks. So they're reliable. And best of all, they don't commingle or lend out your crypto funds. They are 100% reserved, and you can review their transparency report. In addition, they have great programs like their rewards program, where you can earn up to 5.25% on stablecoins, and they do it the right way. No fishy stuff, no crazy lending out. They are doing it the right way. I interviewed the CEO and talked about it. And the stablecoins they offer the yield on is Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin. You earn up to 5% there and 5.25% on USBC. And to participate, you simply have to log into the app once per month, deposit $50 once per month, and trade $50 once per month. And a part of this rewards program, you get 24-hour early access to new tokens that they list on the platform. So folks, if you'd like to learn more about Uphold, check out the link in the description. Now look at this news. This is very bullish. Design app Figma. I'm sure many of you have probably used Figma. I have. They just filed to go public. But look at this. In their S1, it shows $70 million in Bitcoin ETFs held on their balance sheet. And the board approved for another $30 million Bitcoin purchase via USDC. Wow. What? This is incredible. Talk about a paradigm shift. You're seeing companies holding crypto in their balance sheet, and it's almost like becoming the norm now, right? You've seen it so many times that it's like, okay, that's cool, but you still got to recognize how significant this is. I got into the market in 2016, and I couldn't even imagine this. With what Jamie Dimon was saying back then, and this asset class still being young, no legislation, no government support, just very nascent. And you had incredible run-ups, of course, but it was still very risky because you didn't have the buy-in. You didn't have TradFi in the market, sort of giving credibility to the market, if you know what I mean. So it's just incredible. I mean, to watch this play out. And folks, this is just going to continue. And as I've always said, it starts with Bitcoin, and then it will go to Ethereum and XRP and Solana and other coins. Eventually, you're not just going to see one asset, crypto asset on the balance sheet. You're going to see multiple, kind of like the index ETFs. You may see Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, ETH, like maybe the top four outside of stablecoins, right? That is what's coming. Book it. Remember, I'm telling you this. It's incredible what's happening, folks. This is just massive. Now, moving ahead, we got some huge stablecoin news. First up, you had Fed Chair Jerome Powell speaking today at the ECB Forum, which is, of course, the European Central Bank. And he was asked about stablecoins, and he said, stablecoins are a positive step. And he says, framework is well underway. So essentially giving his buying, saying this is a good thing. So we continue to get positive statements from the Fed. And I know some people may not like Jerome Powell for other reasons, politics and all that, but we're not talking about that right now. I want you to see the buy-in we're getting from the government on multiple levels, whether it be Congress, the president, or we know Trump is big on crypto, and the Fed. I mean, this is huge endorsement, right? But it should come as no surprise, because on this podcast, we've been talking about the implications of a US dollar stablecoin on the world reserve currency, which is the US dollar, and maintaining that status, right? And people around the world want the US dollars. And if you can give it to them in a stablecoin format that settles instantly, that can be transferred instantaneously, and it can generate yield versus them just holding paper dollars, under their mattress, you open up a world of possibilities and more adoption. And these stablecoin issuers, of course, will have to back their reserves with U.S. treasuries. And that is what the U.S. government wants. That's what the Fed wants. That's what the Treasury wants. So it's a win-win. And of course, Jerome Powell is going to be on board. Now, the stablecoin news continues. Look at this. Robinhood Kraken-backed global dollar, USDG, comes to Europe. So USDG is a fully regulated global USD stablecoin that is compliant with MiCA and is now available in the EU, said Paxos, the token's issuer. So I had broke this news just last year because this is a consortium of big players forming a unified stablecoin. So I mean, just look at what's happening, right? And I've had the CEO and co-founder of Paxos, Charles Cascarilla, on a couple of times on the podcast. So I'll try to get him on to talk about this, but it's incredible. So global dollar, USDG, a stablecoin issued by regulated fintech Paxos and backed by a consortium of heavy hitters that includes Robinhood, Kraken, and MasterCard, is being made available to consumers across the European Union. USDG is regulated by Europe's markets in Cryptoassets, which is MiCA, the Finnish Financial Supervisory Authority, and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, Paxos said in the statement. Demand for US dollar-backed stablecoins is growing in Europe, where Circle's USDC token is the largest MiCA-regulated choice. USDG will make a significant impact as an alternative regulated option, Paxos said. Folks, this thing is moving at 100 miles per hour. Don't miss what's happening here. You're going to be using stablecoins in one way or the other, whether you know it or not, because they may be running behind the scenes, giving you instant settlement, lower fees on transactions. You got MasterCard, the credit card companies, you got PayPal, and even MoneyGram, and these folks already integrating stablecoins, right? Getting ready to have these things used in the real world. So it's coming. And you can take a bet on it by, if you want, holding the stocks of these companies. But I think even better, you can hold the native token of the blockchains being used as the rails. So whichever native blockchain these stablecoins are issued on, you take your bets, because that's going to give them more network adoption, utility. We've often talked about Metcalfe's law and also Reed's law, where network effects comes into play and gives these blockchains a value, and of course their native tokens. So really, really bullish news here. And look at this, South Korean crypto exchange Upbit to work on won stablecoin with NeverPay. So as always, crypto is a global asset class. It's not specific to the United States. And we're seeing players around the globe in a race to get as much market share. No one wants to get left behind. Game theory is playing out here. So a KRW stablecoin could effectively iron out the spread between exchanges and end the kimchi premium. Very interesting. So Upbit and NaverPay are collaborating on a South Korean won KRW stablecoin initiative. The move follows the Bank of Korea pausing its CBDC plans, aligning with the president's support for a won-based stablecoin market. A KRW stablecoin could reduce the kimchi premium by allowing easier on-chain swaps with USDT, that's Tether, and USDC, that's Circle, of course, easing cross-border trading friction. Folks, do you see what's happening here? Now, did you catch the item here of pausing the CBDC plans? We got to watch out. Some of these stable coins are actually CBDCs, and they're just putting a different name and face on it. I've been saying that the joint stablecoin by JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, that news that was announced about a month ago, I believe that's the US CBDC. So we got to be vigilant, because we got to make sure our rights are not trampled on here. Now, I can't speak for folks in South Korea and other countries. You got to also be vigilant and know what you're doing. But, I've had Chris Giancarlo of the Digital Dollar Project on many times over the years, and he was sounding the alarm, saying, look, a lot of people are seeing CBDCs as the boogeyman, but they're missing the stable coins, which is like the sister or the brother of the CBDC and has similar principles. Because if the issuer does not respect your rights or the Constitution, and speaking of the United States, it's the same thing, right? A lot of control can be put into place here. Now, the good thing with the stablecoin market is you have different options, and you can also just simply send a digital asset like XRP or Ethereum or Bitcoin, right? So you have the options, but you got to watch out for some of these stablecoins. I'm not saying all of them. Well, when you have these joint ones with the banks, that's the one that is putting up the red flags. And when you got the banks participating maybe with the private sector, like here in Korea, hey, we're going to pause our CBDC plans. Let's work on a stable coin. We'll go to the market and say, hey, this is a stable coin, right? But it could have the CBDC principles. So something to be vigilant about, think about, and make sure there's not some sort of switcheroo happening here, if you know what I mean. So folks, that's the news. Very bullish. I mean, I love that Grayscale news, the ETF news. It bodes well for the XRP Solana ETF, which there's a lot of applications and filings piled up on the SEC's desk, and those two altcoins are in the top five and could go bananas when those ETFs are approved. I hold both tokens, more so XRP, but I want to see Solana go up to $1,000 if possible. I'm here to make money. So, folks, let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit the thumbs up button. If you appreciate this content, please be sure to support me by subscribing to my free email newsletter on Substack. It's 100% free. Link will be in the description. Also, check out my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital. And if you want to expand your knowledge about crypto and learn about all these things, check out my course at mycryptocourse.com. The link will be in the description. This course features expert commentary from founders, CEOs, and institutional investors in the crypto industry. It's packed with tons of value with full text write-up, videos, downloadable materials, and much more. It's unique. No other course offers you this, so check it out. Link will be in the description, folks. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.